This is part 2 of the study guide for Algebra A, Test 5, Quarter 2. So looking at number 6, here we are asked to find the x and y intercepts of this equation. And so we actually found x-y intercepts for the inequalities when we graphed some systems, and for number 2 also I used x and y intercepts. So remember, for the x-intercept, all you're going to end up doing is just setting y equal to 0. And so you're canceling out that y term, and you're only left with 1/16 x equals 3. And so when you go ahead and solve, you're going to end up multiplying by the reciprocal. And that's what I'm testing you on for this part of the problem. So we're multiplying by 16 over 1. So times by 16 over 1. So 3 is the same thing as 3 over 1. So when you multiply, you end up with a value of 48. So it'll say down at the bottom, x-intercept. And what is it? Well, x-intercept is 48. You could write the answer as 48, 0, because that is the point at which the x-intercept is, because we set y equal to 0. Well, for the y-intercept, we're going to do the same sort of thing. We're going to end up setting x equal to 0. And so when we do that, we cancel out this x term, and all I'm left with is negative 3y equals 3. Well, to solve for that one, all we're going to do is divide by negative 3, and we'll have our value. So here we end up with y equals negative 1. There's one negative, so it is a negative. And you can write your answer just like that. The y-intercept is negative 1, or you could write it as an ordered pair. X is 0, y is negative 1. Either way. Well, the next problem is going to ask us to write an equation. So whenever we write an equation, we need to use the point-slope formula. But the point-slope formula, which is that y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, well, what I'm missing is the slope, because all they give us is that it passes through these 2 points. Oops, I'm sorry, this one does have the slope. So here we have the slope. The next one is going to be the one where we have just the 2 points. So all we have to do on this problem is just substitute. This is our slope. Here we have m equals negative 1/3. And the point, well, this is our x1 value, and this is our y1 value. So we'll just go ahead and rewrite it. Y minus 8 equals, and then we have the slope, which is negative 1/3, multiplied by x minus negative 3. So really what I'm testing you on this time, remember, any minus negative makes plus positive. You're going to end up with a fraction as a slope, and you're going to have to multiply it by a whole number. So let's see what we get here. Y minus 8 equals negative 1/3 x. But off to the side, write down negative 1/3 times by 3. So remember, the 3's end up cross-canceling, but watch the sign. That's real important. That's where a lot of people end up making the error right here. This is a negative times a positive makes a negative 1. So then we just have the one final step, and that is to add this 8 to both sides. And again, remember, watch the signs, opposite signs there, so we have to subtract. So now we have y equals negative 1/3 x, and then a plus 7. More positives than negatives, so that's why it's a positive. Well, here's the one where we end up having to find the slope, because again, we're going to write an equation. Whenever they say write an equation, remember, the point-slope formula is the formula to use. But here, we don't have the slope. We have 2 points, so we have to use that slope formula. Remember, the slope formula is when we take the difference of the y's over the difference of the x's. An important thing is to be consistent. So I'll show you what consistency I'm talking about in just a moment. Negative 2 and 10. Those are the y values. Those go on top. Negative 2 minus 10. Now, here's the consistency. Since I started with the negative 2, start with the 1. 1 minus 3. So again, I'm still seeing people putting x's on top, y's on the bottom. Make sure you have y's on top. When we talk about slope, slope is steepness. When we think of steepness, we think of vertical. How much do I have to go up or down rather than left or right? So from this point, anytime I've got minus or negative and then a minus sign, I'm going to change to plus negative. You can do the same thing here, plus negative. And so we end up with a negative 12 over negative 2, which just makes 6, positive 6. The two negatives cancel out. And so now we can go ahead and use that point slope formula. So just pick a point. Let's take this point right here. We're going to use this point and rewrite the numbers in that point slope formula. Y minus negative 2. So the negative 2 equals the slope, which we just found was 6, right here, times by x minus 1. I got the 1 from this point here again. And so we're using that distributive property, multiplying the 6 over that subtraction. Now I'm left with a y plus 2. Anytime you see that minus negative, change that to plus positive, equals 6x minus 6. So just one more step here, and that is to subtract the 2 from all sides. Now remember, they're the same sign, so here we end up having to add those two numbers. So y equals 6x minus 8 is our answer. Well, one more problem, and that is one where we've seen before. We've had to deal with these two companies, and they charge a fee and they have an hourly charge, and when will they charge the same? And how much will they charge is the question. So there's two parts to this. So remember, you got two different equations. You got Owen, and Owen, his charge is this, $350 plus $15 per hour. Well, we want to know the number of hours. How many hours? That means this is our variable, 15 times the number of hours. I don't know the number of hours. That's why I use a variable there. So 350 plus 15h. Ted has a different charge, and Ted's charge is this. Ted only has an initial fee of $2.99, so his charge is lower. So he's cheaper to start with, but notice he's more expensive hourly-wise. So he's charging $18 an hour. So he charges $3 an hour more than Owen charges. Eventually, Owen will be cheaper, and we want to find out when. So when will they charge the same? What we're going to do, same means equal. So when will they have the equal amount? So let's take their two charges, 350 plus 15h. Take an Owen's charge, set it equal to Ted's charge, 299 plus 18h. And then go ahead and solve. And so when we solve this, I'm going to do opposite operations. I'm going to take that 299 and I'm subtracting it from both sides. I'm going to take this 15h, I'm going to subtract that from both sides. So basically all I'm doing is taking the difference of their hourly rates, which is $3 per hour, and I'm taking the difference of their initial charge, which is $51. And so I end up having to borrow, and that's how I got that answer. So this makes 14, so that's how I'm getting 51. And then from there, do the division. Find out how many hours it's going to be until they end up charging the same, which is 17 hours. So H is 17. So 17 hours, they'll charge the same. Now they want to know how much will that charge be. Well, all you're going to do is you're going to take that 17 and you're going to substitute it. Put it in place of one of these variables. Let's put it right there in Owen's charge. It doesn't matter which charge you pick. Ted's charge would give you the same amount. So what we do is rewrite Owen's charge is $350 plus $15 times by 17 hours. So here's the mistake most people make on this problem, is that they multiply these two numbers, and they'll even get the right answer. This ends up being 255 when we multiply those. And then they say, oh, there's the answer, 255. But what did they forget? Well, they forgot about his fee. This is the amount he charges for the hours he worked, but he also has this fee, this one-time fee that he charges. And you've got to add that one-time fee to the hourly charge. And that gives us $605 is the amount that they'll charge at the end after those 17 hours. Now, if you had plugged in the 17 for Ted's charge, you would have gotten the same answer eventually. 18 times by 17 give you a number, plus $299 will give us the same value of 605. Well, those are the problems you'll see on this week's test. Good luck.